I'm hungry. You guys hungry? I'm kinda hungry. Can we get some food?
I'm looking forward to completing your training. In time, you will call me the master.
Correctly with the correct amount.
It's showtime.
All right, welcome sleepers, welcome friends. It's Adam, Joel, Brian, and David. We are here to talk about Star Wars, Rogue One, The Force Awakens, not your normal fantasy football podcast. I wanted to say thank you guys so much for listening, and without any further ado, let's make those introductions to the people I just introduced. First and foremost, we've got GM Dave on the show today with us from the Order 66 podcast and D20 Radio. You can find him on Twitter at GM Dave. Dave, how's it going?
Dude, how are you?
I'm good. You want to tell these guys a little bit about the Order 66, what it is, and why you're on the Star Wars podcast with us here in
Hey, go figure, right? Order 66 podcast. No one's ever heard of Order 66. The podcast is really dedicated to role-playing, right? We started in 2008 with the advent of the Wizards of the Coast Star Wars Saga Edition rule set. Made friends with Rodney Thompson, a bunch of guys at WotC, and we kind of continued that through Fantasy Flight, and now we know Christian and Steve and a whole bunch of the guys at FFG, and they've been really good to us. So we are first and foremost a role-playing game podcast about Star Wars, specifically Star Wars. And now we've got ourselves a whole bunch of podcasts that are dedicated to everything from Pokemon to general geekery. So that's D20 Radio.
Awesome. And then we got Brian from the 515. Brian, can you let our listeners know a little bit about you and where you're from?
Yeah, my name is Brian Eikenberry. I am one of the co-hosts for 515 Fantasy Football Radio. I live in Iowa. I'm fantasy football, one of the winningest minds in fantasy football, mind you. I like to brag a little bit on myself, but I'm a Star Wars aficionado since day one, man, and I'm an Order 66 survivor, might I add. Can I just throw that in there, that I'm a survivor?
There you go.
Of Order 66. And I'm fucking excited for this, man. What an awesome movie. I watched it maybe just finished up 2 hours ago, so I'm riding the high still.
That's excellent. And finally, we got Joel from the award-winning Plumbing the Death Star podcast. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your last name correctly, Joel.
It's like damn it, but with a Z, so damn it. Easiest
Awesome.
way to remember it. Yeah. So we're from Plumbing the Death Star, which is one of the many shows that we have on the Sanspans Radio Network. I guess it's an irreverent look at pop culture, including Star Wars. So I'm sorry if I might have the most unpopular opinion on this show. I reckon. I just have an inkling.
And you're in Melbourne, right?
Yeah, Melbourne, Australia.
That's right. So I used to work for the Brisbane Lions, the Australian rules football, and as you know, SleeperWire is a fantasy football podcast. And working there, I remember people telling me that they thought American football was weak, which I wasn't sure about. But then I went and worked for the Brisbane Lions. For those of you who haven't heard about Australian rules football, maybe Joel could give you a little bit of background on why you think this.
Well, for starters, we don't use any armor when we play. I guess we have a lot of injury. I mean, I remember when I used to play football when I was littler, and the reason I think one of the reasons I stopped was I broke my wrist, but still kept going. That was a very painful experience for me. But we kind of look at the American football. One, it's confusing. It's very stop-starting, so we don't know what's going on. Whereas Australian rules football is very much like sick. You got 15 minutes to go nuts. we'll see what happens. And yeah, we don't use armor. It's good times.
Now, Dave, GM Dave, I should call you. You have experience with fantasy football as well, don't you?
Yeah, I think I've been playing fantasy football since 1988. Believe it or not.
You're a newspaper guy.
Yes. So way back in the I had some friends who went into they went the RTF radio, television, film route. One of them now actually does play-by-play for the Dallas Mavericks. But we've kind of lost touch, and I'm in a couple other cash leagues. But I am the guy that everybody hates in our league because I took a little guy named Dak Prescott with first pick in the 16th round in our keeper league.
That worked out.
It did.
And Brian, you have a lot of experience with fantasy football, and you're actually sponsored by somebody that I think most of our listeners would know. Do you want to get in a little bit of background about that?
Yeah, the 515 Fantasy Football Show. We kind of started out. I originally I still do a Walking Dead podcast, and that's kind of how I parlayed that into a fantasy football podcast with my friend Andy Hall, who is on our rock station, 103.3 KAZR. And we just started doing it, and the music director heard our fantasy football podcast, and he says, "Hey, we have a spot for some programming on our ESPN 1350 AM affiliate here in town. Do you guys want a spot on our ESPN radio?" And it's like, I'm going to have to think about that for a little bit. Not sure. Okay, yeah. And that's kind of how we've come along. And we've really just kind of developed it into a giant monster that we love and do. And we feel we're one of the unique podcasts, fantasy football, where we break down every matchup and every fantasy relevant player. So we're not, doing the obvious. We're getting down to the wide receiver threes on every team because there are those situations, there's those tough calls to make, and a lot of the big national pundits won't make those calls, but we fear not, and we stand by our decisions.
Awesome.
Typically, we disagree, so one of us is always right.
We are talking about Star Wars, and so one of the first questions I had on last year's show was, if you were to draft a Star Wars character as your running back one or your quarterback one, who would be your first draft pick?
Any Jedi with Force Push can be my RB1.
Yeah, that'd be pretty legit.
That is a hell of a stiff arm. I'd probably go with Vader for my RB1.
Yeah, Vader kind of cut up the defense at the end of the movie, didn't he?
Oh,
Literally cut up the defense.
man, that was great. That was great. I can't wait to get into all that. So talking about Star Wars, what is your experience with Star Wars? I know that you guys are all fans. I mean, clearly you do Plumbing the Death Star, Order 66, Far, Far Away. How'd you guys get into this?
Sure. So Star Wars for me, it really started out, my mom and dad divorced when I was really young, and I used to come live with my father in the summer. And one thing we always bonded over was Star Wars. He died 8 years ago, so he hasn't got to see these last two. And that's what has always been a heavy heart for me for Star Wars. And that's why I'm super passionate about it. And that's why I absolutely love it. And that's why I sought out some, early opportunities with Far, Far Away Radio. If anyone knows that, that's where I really started to get my chops on podcasting and really was exposed to this kind of a world and a discussion. I used to do some beat writing for them on their website, and that's what Star Wars really means to me. And now I have a son who's 4, and I am infecting his mind with all of this stuff. And we've got Star Wars Legos and stuff that he's not supposed to have that I get to play with now because it's a good excuse, and it's great. And that's what it means to me. I mean, it's beyond a movie. It's family, it's love, it's being able to share stuff. It's great. I love it.
Awesome. GM Dave.
Yeah. So, obviously saw him when I was a kid. My parents, my family wasn't really that into Star Wars, but I had a friend in, I guess at that point, elementary school that was huge, and so we collected all the action figures, right, in those little bubble. And if I'd have known, if I'd have just kept them in bubble wrap, that they would have been worth as much as they are today, I would have done it and just not had to work. But that was my friends at the time were really what carried me through. And then as I got older, we started down the path of a different set of friends started down the path of playing D&D and some other role-playing type games, and played video games, The Force Unleashed and all that jazz. And it just kind of naturally evolved into this podcast, which became a Star Wars role-playing podcast. And then, through that, we have a really dedicated and somewhat rabid fan base. And with that is all this EU knowledge and all this stuff that I didn't really know before. And so it's expanded my horizons with Star Wars. And even though the EU is gone, now it's kind of I thirst for more. Give me more. I read all the books, whatever,
Joel, how about you, man?
So my experience with Star Wars is probably very different, because I actually don't remember ever watching the original trilogy. Like, I just don't remember it. It happened when I was probably very young. But I remember liking it. I have vague memories more of, weirdly, the Caravan of Courage Ewok movie, and getting real upset when people die. I was very young. Some of the earliest memories I have of Star Wars is my older brother selling a lot of the toys and the figurines back in like the late 80s, so not getting a lot for it all. But when I was 14, that's when Episode 1 came out, and so that was sort of the Star Wars that was in my formative years. So it was kind of like but I did play a lot of KOTOR and KOTOR 2, and that's sort of where my enjoyment for the Star Wars series sort of came from. And like plumbing the Death Star, the whole sort of concept of the show, really came about when I was like, do we put the original trilogy on a pedestal, just putting it out there? Like, hey, let's talk about some flaws. And several people jumped down my throat. So, yeah. So I'm a fan, but an irreverent one, I guess.
Have you watched any of the Caravan of Garbage? Have you heard of this?
With James?
Yes.
Yeah, they're good stuff.
Oh man, those are hilarious. Those are fantastic. I'm a big fan. If you guys
very good stuff.
get a chance to listen, go check it out on YouTube. They're great.
Yeah, Mr. Sunday Movies is a very funny man.
All right, so one thing I do to start off the show, I kind of want to know where your knowledge level is of Star Wars. I do a little bit of trivia, and since the three of you don't know each other, I think it's great to do some trivia, and maybe we can refer to the winner as the Jedi or Sith, and refer to the loser as a Padawan or Jar Jar Binks.
Cool. So we're going to get pissed off at each other after 5 minutes of introduction. This is going to be great. What could go wrong?
This is how it's going to go. I'm going to play a clip. I'm going to play a clip, and what I want you to do is to tell me, is this from Star Wars, or is this from another movie? You get an extra point if you can tell me what that other movie is, or if you can tell me what Star Wars movie it is. So the clip is actually the same clip in every movie, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You guys ready? And what I'll do is I'll ask you after each one. We'll go through. I'll say Brian, Joel, David,
All right.
and we'll go in that order. All right?
All right.
All right.
When's the last time your knowledge of Star Wars got a girl to take her clothes off?
Oh, maybe not that one. Here's the actual.
Well, that's from Episode 3.
All right. So I said Brian, Joel, and then David. Here's the first clip, Brian.
I got a bad feeling about this.
What's that? Is that from Star Wars?
No, I don't think so. I can't tell you what the other movie is.
Yeah? Okay.
I just want to go. I don't think it. I don't know. I don't think that one is. Voice didn't sound familiar.
Okay. It is from Star Wars. This one you should know.
That one was actually New Hope.
That
So
was
it
a
sounded
New
like-
Hope. Who said that?
Really?
Dave.
Han Solo?
Yeah, that came.
is
Yeah, that
Han
was
Solo.
yeah.
Maybe it's the airwaves here. I don't know. Man, that did not sound familiar at all.
He had his
Holy
stormtrooper
Christ.
costume on when he said that, though.
Oh, see, there you go then. Yeah.
All right, the next one is for Joel. Right now I got David with one. Joel, is this from Star Wars? And if not, can you tell me what movie it's from?
Dude, I got a very bad feeling.
Not from Star Wars. Boys in the Hood.
Not Boys in the Hood, but you are right. You get a point. It is not from Star Wars. It is
That's
from
awesome.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
So it was close.
I was actually going to guess Dudes, Where's My Car, but
Really?
All right, David, next one.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Wow. That sounds so Star Wars-y in the background.
Do you want to hear it again?
Yeah.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Damn. I'm trying to think because Finn said it. Finn said it in 7. I'm trying to figure out if that's him or not, but I'm going to say no.
You're right.
I have no idea where it's from.
It's actually Harrison Ford from Indiana Jones.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I was going to say episode 7, Harrison Ford. Damn.
Brian, you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Thing is evil, man. I got the bad feeling.
I'm going to say no, and I'm going to guess Cool Runnings.
It is not from Cool Runnings. I think it's from The Gods Are Crazy, but I might be wrong about that.
He sounded Jamaican. It sounded like they were talking about a bobsled. Cool Runnings.
All right, I got 2 more. So, Joel?
Uh-huh.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Ah, that's Star Wars. That's Ewan McGregor. Let's say episode 1. Not 2. 2. Let's go episode 2.
Episode 2. You
Yep.
are... No, you are incorrect. It's
episode 3.
1. It's episode 1. Yeah.
Ah.
And last
Damn.
one. David, you have a chance to take the lead here. Here it is.
Bob, I got a bad feeling on this one, all right? I mean, I got a bad feeling.
I absolutely know that's not Star Wars. But, I have absolutely no idea, so I am just going to guess The Hangover.
It's from Apocalypse Now. How about that? So,
That's cute.
all right. I have the double or nothing questions. I have 4 of these, and then we're all done. 4 of these questions, and this one is first one to answer gets the double or nothing points. Here we go.
Question 1. The Millennium Falcon is pretty unique as far as spaceships go. What inspired George Lucas's design of the Millennium Falcon?
I know. Buzz. Like a half-eaten burger.
That is correct. It is most certainly a burger. It's most certainly a burger. With the olive as the dish. The next one.
Question 2. What film did Star Wars lose Best Picture to at the 50th Academy Awards?
Damn.
And if you answer wrong, you go to 0, correct?
I'm not really taking away points.
Oh.
Oh, awesome.
I'm not that kind of guy.
At the 50th, huh?
I don't even know what the 50th
True.
was.
I'll say true. I'll answer true.
That's good. The next
let's
questions are
see.
true or false, so...
The 80s, yeah. The color purple or something.
It's before that.
The color purple.
Did they lose to It's a Wonderful Life?
No, but I think you're right around the same time. I think it's a little bit later. Annie Hall is the answer.
Annie Hall. Man, I wouldn't have got that if you gave me a month.
No way. No way. I wouldn't have either. But there's somebody out there listening. You guy who's listening, email us.
Yelling at you.
Oh yeah, I'm
season-
sure there's half of our. I put it out on our podcast that this was going to happen. I'm pretty sure like all of them are going to avalanche me with email like, you idiot.
All right, 2 more and then we're done.
Question 3.
Okay.
True or
Yoda
false?
was originally going to be played by a monkey in a suit.
Ah, true. I don't care if it's not true. I want that to be true.
It is true. You are absolutely right, Joel. He was supposed to be played by a monkey in a suit. Yoda.
That's terrible.
Fuck, that would have been the best movie.
Oh, shit. All right, last one.
Your final question.
Which one of these is not a Star Wars parody? Sex Wars, Star Nuts, A New Hole, or The Force Awakens?
Give me Star Nuts.
Fuck. I hope it's. Stardust is too good not to be.
I'm going to go Sex Wars.
I'll go the last one. Just to was it?
It is
Force
a trick
Awakens?
question. They are all Star Wars parodies.
Oh, damn
You
it.
can find them all on such lovely channels as Pornhub and these other places on the web. So, Joel,
Back in
you
front. Yes.
are our winner.
Oh, that's
us.
stupid.
4 correct. Congratulations.
Way to go, Australian Jedi.
Yeah, because he's from the future. That's why you already knew the
Yeah,
question.
he knew the questions already.
Exactly. It's Saturday right now. It's confusing for everybody.
Awesome. And Brian, I'm sorry you are a loser with 1.
Yeah, give me Jar Jar.
All right, we're going to get into it here. We're going to start talking about the Rogue One background.
So speaking of Jar Jar, do you think the guy that voiced Jar Jar looked at K2SO and said, "My God, that's everything Jar Jar should have been"?
Oh,
Yes. K2 was freaking awesome.
yes, he was.
It was. Very good. One of the better things of the film.
Yep, Alan Tudyk was a good job. So the background, Brian, this is something that you said that you do with your movie reviews. You talk about the director and the producers and the cast.
Sure.
So I did a little bit of research on there. I don't know if you got a chance to get into it, but the director, Gareth Edwards, this is his 3rd directing film. He's only directed 2 other films before this. They were
Which are?
Monsters and Godzilla.
Yes. So I remember when he was announced, and I was kind of excited for it. I liked the direction that they were taking. You know, they weren't going with somebody who already has I want to say sci-fi, but Godzilla is a spaceship kind of a background already. They wanted to bring some experience, but they also, I believe, in the casting of this is they wanted somebody that they could still control. They didn't want to bring in somebody with a giant resume who says, "This is how my movie's going to be." That's kind of my opinion when they chose him. I could be wrong, but
No, I somewhat side with you. Like, because was it announced that he was directing before or after Godzilla? I'm not sure.
after.
After, right. So Godzilla, I don't know if you guys have seen Godzilla. Like, it's fine. There's a few weird flaws in that film. It kind of makes the villains, like the Mutos, very sympathetic as opposed to Godzilla. So for me, anyway, I was like, "You piece of shit, Godzilla! Don't destroy! Oh, you son of a bitch!" And I think I fall in that same category with. I think they're getting younger directors, new directors, or directors that haven't had a large piece of work to be like, so they can control them. It's kind of like the Marvel effect, where initially you get these really interesting auteurs or really interesting filmmakers who have a certain vision. And then when they sort of don't go their way, you know, they sort of either quit or kind of, like, say, Edgar Wright leaving Ant-Man. And I don't know, if you look at Age of Ultron, even with Joss Whedon, he you can kind of see the creative restraints that he had put on him. So I don't know. I'm wary when they sort of announce these sort of directors, and you're sort of seeing now a lot of these films getting TV directors, and I think because the TV directors are used to sort of dealing with more higher ups and people with notes than someone who is like, I have a vision. So I don't know. I'm of two minds when it comes to sort of these things.
Well, what did Josh Whedon said he'll never do another Marvel movie, right? Didn't he? He said no matter how much money they offer me, it's not worth it. So I don't think you're that far off, Joel.
So yeah, it's good that we're getting these sort of films, but I'm worried about the state of the films. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a cynic.
No. I'm with you.
For you.
Yeah, like yeah. I don't know how much I should say before we get to the kind of the meat of it. Also, I'm not quite sure how much I should put on the internet without getting yelled at more. So
I think you should put it all out there, and I think you should say. As a matter of fact, the last person in my last review called our listeners Disney zombies, and if we like this crap that Disney keeps producing, we need to grow up and snap out of it.
Wow, somebody still lives in his mom's basement. Jeez.
I'm not that
pretty
bad.
sure those were his words.
Wow, I'm not that bad. I'll get into the reasons why I personally didn't like Rogue One a lot, and it even maybe stems to retrospectively looking at The Force Awakens, why I'm like, oh, actually, there's a few things there that kind of irk me. But
wow, shock, horror, blasphemy. John Williams did not do the score for this movie. Is that was that a good thing or was that a bad thing?
For me, it was a distraction. It was an absolute distraction because I could tell this was not John Williams music. And it started to distract me as to I started thinking to myself, who the hell did the score now, you know? And for some reason, I don't know. The music, I could tell it was trying to kind of be an homage to the John Williams, because you'd hear some of the same chords and same themes build up, and then it would change, and it would piss me off.
So I'm kind of in the same boat. I could tell right away that it wasn't, and just how you're talking about where it's leading up, and then all of a sudden it goes, like kind of like someone farted on the strings, and it's like, whoa, what happened? You know, it's like, what the hell is that? But I think it's just because John Williams doesn't have time. He would literally have to do music every year for the next 6 years,
right?
For these, and I think writing it, God, I think it's way more than, because he has to still record it. So he's got like 6 months to write, 6 months to record, and he's back at it again. So I get it, but I was kind of a little like, what the hell was that? Why did they just do that? That's just me.
See, I like the music. It was very much, John Williams filtered through Inception. But I like the music. Like it was nice. It was to me, it wasn't overly distracting. But that's just for me. Like I didn't notice the music as much, which I guess is the best compliment you can sometimes say about music. It wasn't very distracting for me.
Gonna make it? Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah, I apologize.
Went full mute and everything for that.
That was the entire film ball that came up.
So we had the cast: Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, Maz Mikkelsen, right? Something. Donnie Yen. How did everybody do? Did you guys like the cast? Were they fine actors?
I liked it. I thought it was pretty well acted. I wasn't 100% with the Saw Gerrera, but I mean, I get why he was there. I just the character had a little bit of a lack of punch after expecting more from the trailers, but I wish I'd have seen a little bit more involvement from Jimmy Smits, Bail Organa, but
yeah.
So
I was kind of in the same boat there with Forrest Whitaker with Saw Gerrera. When I seen that, I'm like, I hate this guy. I'm not a fan of his work. personally, I just do not agree with the guy in any way, shape, or form, and I don't like his movies. So when I seen it, I'm like, damn it, this is gonna piss me off because I'm really gonna like it, but he's gonna be in there and it's gonna make me mad. And then I just don't think he did a very good job of selling the character being this anarchist leader of this big group, and it really didn't do it for me. He was more like a Jabba the Hutt than he was this big anarchist guy. You know, he just kind of controlled things and moved around. So then when he died pretty quick, I'm like, yes!
He got the bonus. I can go on now.
Yep, I'm good.
Yeah, he felt very much like instead of like a military leader or a leader of this sort of extremist group, he kind of just felt senile and kind of useless.
Old and tired,
yes. Yeah, he didn't, which is fine to do that, but it just didn't really serve much of a purpose. And I like the oxygen mark he had. I like his aesthetic, but I don't know, it was a bit of a dull character you could have done more with. And I really hated that mind octopus thing. That was stupid.
Yeah, I agree. And without getting into too many spoilers, because we're about to get into it and we'll let all the listeners know, what did we think of Grand Moff Tarkin?
I have very strong opinions, so I'll go last.
All right. This is Brian. So when I seen it from behind, I was like, how's this going to work? And then it turned around and it took me a minute. I was pissed. I'm just like, really? Did you really have to do that? But then as I kind of went on, I appreciated it. It wasn't the greatest in the world by any means, but I appreciated what they were trying to do because Grand Moff Tarkin, or Governor Tarkin now, was one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars. And I really hope he turns out to be the main villain in Episode 7. I'm really hoping that's Tarkin. But it was there. I appreciated what they were trying to do, so that made me like the CGI a little bit better. Next.
Oh wait, you wanted to go back. Sorry. Yeah, you wanted to go last. Sorry. So I didn't find it. I didn't find it voiced appropriately. He was a little bit, his tones and his tones were a little bit low. His inflection was a little bit off. It was, especially when he said you can fire when ready. I expected to hear that same Tarkin, you may fire when ready, but it was too. The voice, the octave was too low, right? And it just didn't happen for me, right? So plus I think they made the character look a little bit too much like Skeletor. Now, granted, he was always thin. He was always thin, but the CGI, the facial, the complexion was a little too dark. He just looked a little too dead. And at that point in time, when you go back and look at A New Hope, and I haven't done that yet, but he was brighter in his appearance. He looked a little younger than he looked like he was about to die.
That's pretty fair
in this, and so I thought that was unfair. I thought oh damn, I forgot his name now. He would have rolled over in his grave.
Peter Cushing.
Yeah, Peter. Yeah. So to contrast that, Red Leader, Gold Leader, I don't know if they were CGI or not, but they were spot on.
So here's the things I heard about Peter Cushing that I was listening when people were reviewing it. I heard people saying the next generation of viewers, when they watch this, are they going to know that he is a CGI character in the next movie, in A New Hope? So kids who are young today, are they going to know that when they watch it? And I don't know if they'll know if nobody says anything. But interestingly enough, the biggest criticism was, doesn't this kind of steal from the actor's acting, right? It takes away from the actor being an actor. Now you are just throwing a face up there, and you can do that with anybody. And what about his performance? So I thought that was an interesting criticism. But Joel, I know you wanted to go last. So
Yeah, so I hated it. I fucking hated it with a passion. Like, I think it was the worst thing in this film. I think we're going to look at this and be like, oh, remember how we kind of bitched and moaned about how the CGI was kind of ridiculous in the original, in the prequels, and how everyone like, oh, we just went CGI heavy and it looks really bad. This is that. And I think people are going to notice that in a couple of years when they rewatch this and be like, oh, yeah, that was stupid. Because when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, sick, there's a Tarkin cameo. And so you kind of have him from the back, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. They show him on the reflection. I'm like, oh, that's good. That's how you're getting around it. That's how oh, no, he turned around, and now he's going to be front and center for the majority of this fucking film. Fuck off. It looked this weird. It kind of, you've all seen Harry Potter. You know that, like, when he goes in the train station, and you see this gross Voldemort fetus? Get that, stretch it out a bit, chuck some hair on it. That's what we got. We got this cold, dead, lifeless thing that was meant to kind of be the actual villain of the piece. Because, I don't know, you had so many options there, and there's so many processes there. Like, someone had to build that. A team of people had to build that. Then you have to have a lot of people look at that and go like, oh, no, it's possible. Because it was so not human that it made me so uncomfortable and took me out of the film. And you can say what you want about films, but a good film transports you into the film. The good film is like, I am there. Nothing made me realize that this was more of a film than that character being like there. Because I'm like, yep, this is clearly a film. That is clearly a stage. That is clearly a set because of that. And I don't know why they did it. I think it really was a detriment. And I understand that, hey, look, this is a new technology. Let's try it out. Don't try it out in a blockbuster film. Try it out in test demos. Try it out like that until you kind of maybe perfect it. And then on the flip side, or the other side, you have, is this kind of just, like, are actors fucked? Are we just going to be like, oh, even when you're dead, we're just going to parade your face around? Like, this is, the beauty of life is that we die. And so, with Peter Cushing, he's dead now. So, like, okay, we have this character. You can either do two things. Either one, hologram it. So you have Mendelssohn's character being very angry that, like, I'm getting all my hard work is being taken by a guy who isn't even here, and he's doing this via a hologram, and so he's, even more impotent rage. Or you hire someone who vaguely looks like him. Like, off the top of my head, I could think of, like, just Charles Dance would have been fine. Thin him up a little bit, he would have been a pretty good Tarkin. And then you have someone to, like, act against. And Mendelssohn is a good actor. But watch him when he's acting against that Muppet thing. It's just like the same shit that we got with episodes 1 to 3, where it was people not acting in front of green screens or acting in front of a ping pong ball. And I feel that this is one of the, like, I'm surprised not a lot of people are focusing in on it, and not a lot of people are being like, that was a stupid decision. And the other CGI monstrosity that we got was even worse.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
So we're going to get into the movie. So I'm going to play the trailer. So those of you who have not watched it can turn it off at this point, because we are going to tell all the spoilers that are coming up, and we don't want to get to that second one just yet. So we're going to play this, and then we're getting into the spoilers.
Cargo shuttle, what's your call sign?
It's, Rogue. Rogue One.
May the Force be with us.
The power that we are dealing with is immeasurable.
We'll follow your lead.
I'm not used to people sticking around when things go bad.
Take hold of this moment. The Force is strong.
We'll take the next chance. And the next. Until we win. Or the chances are spent.
All right, so we get into that one paragraph in the opening crawl of the original New Hope, and that is this entire movie. You guys are going to have to help me out with the plot points, but let's start from the beginning, where the ship is flying over. It looks great. great camera work. It looks fantastic. And then they land and they meet up with the mother and the father. You guys want to help me out as I talk this along, because there was a lot of points and I may not have gotten them all written down. So what did you guys think of how it started off?
Loved it.
No opening crawl.
Yeah,
I was happy with
there
it.
was no crawl.
Yep, and thank you. Good. I thought that was going to be a big argument right off the bat. I was happy because it's not a part of the saga. It's a Star Wars story, and it doesn't deserve that opening crawl.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good decision. I really liked it. I like that we're like, nah, we're here. This is what we're doing. We don't have to have exposition. This is it. It was good.
Yeah, I'm good.
There you go. Podcast over.
Boom.
That's done. Done.
Good times.
We have a point of agreement. We're done.
What about killing the mother in front of the kid, and then Forrest Whitaker shows up? Did you guys like how that kind of formed her into the person that she was? What's your opinion on the character arc of Felicity Jones?
Well, this is where I might differ with some people, right? So some of my friends thought that that Act 1 was a little bit drawn out, that it was a little slow to start, and I actually thought there wasn't enough in Act 1, and I'm thinking from a perspective of someone who has not seen the films. I know, you've got to have lived under a rock to not know what the Death Star is, right? But, it's, okay, guess what? He might as well have said, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? All right, this is how Batman was created. Somebody killed your parents. It's contrived to me a little bit. But that didn't stop me from enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt there was some shorthand kind of, all right, lazy sort of script writing or filmmaking there. But like it didn't take away the enjoyment so much, but I felt her character arcs were very nuanced. It was very subtle, and I really liked that. But I really felt that they should have done maybe a little bit more with her. Like, cool, we got a flashback, but it would have been nice to get a little bit more of her going through her growing up, and like getting her going from someone who was very much, I guess you could argue that Mads was for the Rebel Alliance, and then she grows up, she's in a prison cell. Like, you didn't have to make her a prisoner. You didn't have to sort of make her like that. But like, whatever, that's fine. You got to have some character choices.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And then it would have been nicer for her to have a bit more, as we sort of go along, her growing up and either being disenfranchised by Saw Gerrera's sort of ways or the Rebels' ways or it all. Like, I would have preferred to sort of see that rather than that be sort of told to us. I would have liked to have seen her be going through that sort of stages of development of being like, this is all kind of shit. But yeah,
I'm right with you there. In fact, it would have given me a little bit more of a reason to like the Saw Gerrera character had I seen that happen. Right, a little bit more development for Saw would have helped me a little bit in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be on the director's special edition cut.
I hope so.
I do, because she referenced it. Yeah, he raised me, but that was it. Well, show us how you came to be such a badass, because you're pretty good at what you do. Yeah. So I'm assuming some of that's going to happen in there. Like, they'll show like a 30-second clip of like him teaching her how to shoot or something. But the other thing I wanted to know more about was the relationship between her parents and what's his name?
Ben Mendelsohn?
Yeah. What was the relationship? Because
director.
What?
Eric or
Director Orson or what?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, Krennic? Yeah, Krennic.
Because she has that one flashback where they're all sitting around as Imperial officers and everybody's happy. And he mentions that. He's like, he tells, oh, you're always you're always going to be a pain in the ass, basically. So there was a big relationship here.
There's that moment where Mendelsohn, he's like, and Mads was like, oh, my wife and child died. There's that moment where Mendelsohn is like, I'm so sorry. And there's almost like there's a genuine sadness to it.
Right.
Like it's just like, oh shit. And you're like, fuck, that's good. But then he sees it's like Mr. Bruce, and he's like, well, fuck you again. Well, here we are. I thought that was a really subtle, nice touch to it all.
Did you guys read Catalyst, the book, the novel Catalyst?
I have heard about it. It's the prequel to the prequel, right?
Yeah, it is. It goes into a lot of detail about Krennic's relationship with that family. And so that's what he was alluding to. And so, I hate the fact that you have to have read the book to enjoy some of these little nuanced items, but, he had to skip something, and so I'm okay with it.
Okay. The opening, good.
All right. So we're all in kind of agreement. So then the next thing that happens is Jen meets the rebellion again for the second time after being locked up. I am really unsure about what her relationship is with them, and where that all came from. But she meets him, and then she meets, the guy who I just kept wanting to say, my name is Amigo Montoya. You killed my father.
Cassian
spoke. Yes. That guy.
See,
so
for
they
me, it went
meet
back
each
to the
other.
terminal where he was the little guy that worked at Sbarro.
Oh, right. And then they ran into those two people who, the one guy from the New Hope, right? I'm wanted in 5 systems.
Oh,
that was annoying.
What's his nuts and Panda Baba.
Yeah,
Panda Baba.
Balchinian and the other guy.
Yeah,
that was
annoying.
annoying.
I've got a problem. I've got a
I
problem.
hated that.
All right. So Panda Baba and Dr. What's His Nuts are in the cantina for New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
How'd they get out of the city?
Exactly. Right. And if they did get out of the city, they're very aware that Jeddah got blown up. So they would be very like, fuck, we've seen some shit. So again, you have, when we meet him again in A New Hope, they're probably suffering from some kind of PTSD, and then one of them gets his arm cut off. Fuck you, Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Good point. I'm just here trying to drown my sorrows, and you got to fuck with me.
Yeah, like, not a fan. Not a fan of.
That was the one Easter egg that kind of pissed me off. That was the Easter egg that didn't need to be there for me. That was the kind of point, and I think it's at this act or this period. The one Easter egg that I did like is when they're in the hangar, they come land. You hear overhead, they were paging for General Syndulla, meaning Hera Syndulla from Star Wars Rebels, the cartoon. That's on Disney.
I did not catch that.
I did not.
Yeah,
either.
so the Ghost is there. You see the Ghost flying in, the ship that they drive in Rebels. You see that flying in, and overhead you hear it's not paging. It's like calling General Syndulla. And I'm like, son of a bitch, that's fucking cool. Because
that's cool.
Hera's
really cool.
a big rebel, so it makes sense that she's gonna be on Yavin. It totally makes sense, and it's like, that's fucking awesome. I really dig that.
See, that's the kind of Easter eggs I like, where I'm not really aware of, and they sort of you really got to notice them. This is like an Easter egg hunt where your father's just sort of scattered the eggs on the lawn, and you're like, oh, there it is, there it is, there it is, and that's what we got with Bulchin and C-3PO. Those, not a fan of those ones.
That one didn't make sense either.
So what did you guys
the
think?
C-3PO thing?
Yeah.
Well, no, that one actually made perfect sense because, as Jimmy Smits is walking out, he's talking Captain Antilles, make arrangements for whatever as he's walking out the door. Well, those droids belong to Captain Antilles, which was why they're on the ship, which is why Leia's there. It all tied in.
I get it makes sense. But I didn't have to like it. Like, you didn't have to show it.
What did you guys
makes
think
sense in the realm of.
I was
Jeddah.
disappointed with Jeddah. I was disappointed for being this big, Jedi center of alignment, and you just kind of meet the drunken monkeys who used to guard the disassembled temple. I was expecting more out of it. Like, I really wanted to get somewhere or see it a little bit more, but it was just kind of like the slums, and that kind of made me sad.
Yeah, it would have. I guess I kind of feel the same. Like, I would have liked a little bit more about the mythology of the Jedi and the Jedi Order and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like, he wanted to make a war film, so he had to cram, the Middle East somewhere, and this was sort of it. And So we got a lot of like, hey, it's a Middle East war times. That's all right. Very notes of Black Hawk Down for me at one point.
I mean, it worked for me until they went to that wide action shot or wide angle shot of like the Mount Rushmore in the middle of there. But
What about the whole crew of misfits? The Donnie Yen, who's actually born and raised in Boston, believe it or not, and his homoerotic Asian friend. How was your feeling on
Baze and Albus?
Yes.
Yeah, Baze.
Yeah, I thought they were awesome. What did he say? The I'm one with the force.
With me. I am one with the force. Yeah.
Oh my God, that was so freaking awesome.
It got a little bit repetitive / annoying, but yeah, it was very good. I like those two as characters. I felt they could have been introduced a little bit better, but I kind of felt that for the majority of them. Although the cassowary man, Cassian, whatever, he was good. His introduction was amazing. Like, I loved his introduction. I loved his, like, I shot his mate in the back and kept going. Like, that was fantastic. But we didn't then see a lot more of that. I would have liked more of that. Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then that all goes down. There's the big battle right there, and Donnie Yen kicks ass, does his own choreography from what I've read, and went through and they go and meet Forrest Whitaker. This is what happens next, right? That's the part of the story we're on.
Yeah, because there's a pilot, Bodhi, that defected from the Imperials, and that's where they're all sort of coming into Jeddah.
That's right.
Yeah. So they're all converging on Jeddah. I like the actor that played the pilot, but I think his character is a victim of this film not knowing if it is a heist film or if it is a war film. Because him getting mind-fucked by the octopus slug is clearly the war film. Because you see him, he's got, again, PTSD, he's seen some shit, he's gotten fucked up by war. But the heist film needs him to be a driver. So he's got to be better real quick. If that makes sense? So he kind of had to, you went through some trauma, but don't worry about it. You're back to being your usual self and your driver.
Yes,
there's no lasting effect of that octopus
him to be
thing.
Fucked up for the entire movie.
Same.
When he got better out of convenience, I thought, that's convenient.
Yeah. I didn't understand what Saw Gerrera's point there was, or what was he trying to do, because this is the truth-telling octopus, but then he still doesn't believe him. So it's kind of like, what was the point of the octopus? You could have just not had the octopus and still not believed. It was a very I didn't. You could have just tortured him a little bit. You know what I mean? You didn't have to have the octopus. Yeah, it was weird.
So the Death Star comes and Jeddah goes away, right?
Poof.
The city, not the planet.
Yeah, not the whole city, just Jeddah City.
Yeah.
So what did you guys? And then Forrest Whitaker dies, and I guess this is from the reshoots before he was bald. I think in the original shoots, I'm not sure. But this was the scene that I heard that they reshot this whole area where he dies. He was supposed to live a little bit longer.
Maybe they got all my hate mail. This dude's pretty pissed.
Mail, it works.
I thought it was a really cool visual. We knew what was going to happen. They throttled back the whole planet explosion. So it's kind of a cool visual to kind of watch the shockwave go and to see that, to really kind of show the destruction of, because you got to pretend that this is your first introduction to the Death Star. So you're kind of seeing this and you would say, wow, that's a really cool weapon. I like that. But wouldn't it make its own gravity? Weird.
No. Don't worry about it. Let's just move that way. Let's forget about
Science.
it. It's fine. Shh. I thought it was very cool visually, very cool. I love the scene before that with the hologram Mads Mikkelsen basically explaining the plan, and I loved when Jen just broke down. I thought that was a really good character arc moment for her, when it was finally like, I don't give a shit about rebels, I don't give a shit about the Imperials, but I give a shit about my father. And that's what I really, really liked about her character. And Mads Mikkelsen and Felicity Jones just sold that scene for me. Like, that was really, 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 really good. I really like that.
I liked it that they turned it into a father-daughter story where now even the plans are something that you are emotionally attached to, right? I thought that it makes the plans even more important somehow from a film from 1977.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, Rogue 2, 1977, coming soon to a theater near you.
Boom.
So the next scene is when they jump to hyperspace and they go to meet Maz, right? Is that the next scene? Or is there a Grand Admiral a Skullface in there somewhere?
I honestly don't remember.
That's kind of that's where we meet Tarkin, because they're there for the test and let's wipe out my leak, because that's where Tarkin takes control. They're like, hey, it's the leak has been taken care of, because he says, I'll let Vader know that I'm taking charge of this station. He's like, you son of a bitch, and well, you had a traitor amongst your ranks, so tough shit. I'm in charge. I'm the baddest motherfucker on the planet, so go fuck yourself. Go cry to Vader.
Go cry to Vader, which he does.
What did we think about the scene with Vader? I mean, we're just going to jump a little bit ahead, but what did we think about that scene with Vader?
I thought Mustafar was contrived.
Yeah.
Hated it. It was fine up until, like, who's he making that joke for? Don't choke on your ambition. Oh, fuck off.
Yeah, that was stupid.
Like, I think as one of the as you're leaving, one of the guys was pointing out, like, he could use that line again. Like, when he, like, when I find your lack of faith disturbing, he could be like, he could just use the same line again if he wanted to. I don't know. I hated that little quip. I thought introducing him where he's like in the tank and all that, and you had that little guy in the hood being like, "Oh, Master Vader, there's a man here to see you." That was great, but it was unnecessary. The quips, and I didn't notice this.
Was a comment. Go ahead.
Apparently Vader walked very weirdly in that scene. I didn't notice it myself, but a friend of mine saw it. He's like, "Why did he prance?" And I was like, "I didn't notice that." But,
so I noticed his belt was moving side to side a lot, like he was wearing a fanny pack. Some of his gear up front, it was kind of shifting. So I think
that
the guy playing it had a little bit of a gut.
Brian, just to let you know,
no, we know what a fanny pack is.
Okay, just
making
sure. I got in trouble for using that word.
Well, I think the guy playing him might have had a little bit of a gut, and as he was walking briskly down that ramp, that might have been what was causing it to wiggle back and forth, looking like, because I'm like, why is he doing that? But so kind of back to the comedy thing, that line, K2 was the comedy. Darth Vader didn't need to be Vader is not comedy. Vader is death.
Yeah, and it takes away from Vader when you make him a bit of a comic relief. Somewhat, it's sort of like I don't want him making quips. I want him being like a badass. I want him to be like people making quips at him and him being like, I'm not having any of that. I will destroy you. Shut up. And then that's what he does. I think the second time we see Vader, that was great.
Yes, the second time was great. I thought his goggles were a little too tinted red. There was a lot more reflection in his eyepieces than I remembered, but I'd have to go back and look at it again.
Yeah, but that was that moment where you're like, I understand why Vader's the villain. I understand why he's this big bad. I understand that they're using darkness as a character in that final scene through the corridor, where he's basically, it almost looks like he's not just pushing dark out, but sucking light in, and it's so fucking good.
That was probably the best scene in the movie, right? I mean, that was the one that just... And this is something else that people were saying that I was listening to. They were saying this is the first Star Wars, the movie, the video game. Everything felt like a video game in this movie.
Yeah, like my critique of this whole film would be that this would be a fantastic KOTOR-esque game. Even how you meet everybody, like the crew, how you met the blind guy and his mate, that is almost out of a Final Fantasy game. They're like, hey, I noticed your necklace. Can we come
Yep.
along? That was so out of a Final Fantasy game.
We've got
The
guys in our
ending-
listener base that are already making this into an RPG campaign because it lends itself to that so easily.
Fantastic, I'll play it. Like
I
when
would
we were watching it, I was like, man, I'd love to see the playthrough where I don't kill that character. You know what I mean? It was just very much like an RPG. Even the end sequence where everyone basically has to press a button. It was like, it's game mechanics. They've gamified this whole story, and I don't know if that's good. I think it's not. I think it would have been a better game. But yeah, they could have done a few different things there, in my opinion.
What did we think about Jin's father dying in her arms?
A little bit contrived, but it was fine.
See, that's the one thing that I am not going to find contrived. I got wrapped up in the moment. I mean, I was already really happy that Cassian didn't take the shot.
I wanted him to take the shot but miss.
And
like, you know, like you take a shot at someone.
Part of me was with you. Like, oh man, I want him to miss and hit Krennic.
Yeah, or even just hit
Krennic
someone
was
else.
Krennic, for everything I read about Krennic, he turned out to be a pussy.
Well, yeah, he was such a bureaucrat. I loved him.
He was a Well, I guess, you know, even in the book, and I'm not spoiling anything here, but you know, he's manipulative in the book, so he's trying to do the same thing. But yeah, anyway.
Okay.
So they decide.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, just like I liked him dying and saying, "I have so much more to tell you," and then he dies. Fuck that.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good. Because I hate when people die in like
Yes.
baby arms. They're
I
like,
thought that was a
"Oh,
great
by the
line.
way, the treasure's buried over there, and by the way, I'm going to tell you these things. Oh, and quickly, do you have a note? Do you have a pen and paper? Take these down. As I die, these are my final words." So it was nice and refreshing to see him being like, "I have so much to tell you."
It wasn't quite
was
as
good.
heart-wrenching as when Glenn died and he said something to Maggie, but regardless, it was.
Wait, what? Glenn died?
Well,
for real this time?
So moving on to the next next thing, they head over to the base, and she says, "We need to attack, and you guys need to join me." And they say, "We're not going to join you," and then they all join.
Yeah, I thought that was silly. Like, why did you put the rebels as another obstacle in that kind of fight? Like, I don't know. I understand that they were trying to make this gray film, that it was not, you know, black and white, that the rebels weren't all good, and I get that, but it kind of drew that out a bit longer, and I would have just, I don't know, I would have preferred them to be having at least some of the support of the rebels. This is where I was expecting them to go full-on heist film, but they went full-on war film, and so I was like, well, they kind of went a bit of both. Yeah.
I for one am glad that they didn't go Ocean's 11 with it, and this was a darker. Really? Oh wow! I actually kind of like the letdown, and then hey, let's ramp it up, you know, and get the guys, and it kind of was a sentimental, I don't know what, emotional kind of cathartic moment to say, hey, we're all with you.
Oh, that was great when like, hey, look at all this cannon fodder we've got for you.
Yeah. Oh, and this was great. This was another K2 line that had me laughing hysterically. I'm with you. He told me I had to be.
Yeah, he was great. Like
He was great.
I thought I was gonna like not like I thought he was gonna take me out of the film a lot. Like I thought he was just gonna be like you know, Humorbot 3000, but he was good. Like he was very very sarky and a good character.
He was. And I wondered who it was, and so I looked it up and figured out it was Alan Tudyk. He voiced iRobot.
Yes, I knew that as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, Firefly. Still my
Firefly.
favorite. My favorite of all-time science fiction movies and shows. And so I bet you that makes Joel cringe, though. So
No, I liked Firefly. It was good. It's such a good film. It's beautiful.
good.
Oh, the openings. Oh, can we just talk about the opening scene of Serenity for a bit? How fucking great it was. Like, you got like, it's about, it's this, it's that was good. I love
They
it.
get to the planet and they have the typical Star Wars 3 battle scenes, right? Where the space, the land, and then the stealing of the disc.
Right.
So all 3 of those were going on. Which one was the coolest?
The Hammerhead Corvette, clearly.
Dude, you know what? I read somebody was bagging on Star Wars because, wait, there's no gravity, so how did the thing fall down? I'm like, did you not see? It's called inertia. The Hammerhead Corvette, like, rammed it and sent it that way. What the hell are you watching?
So I got a little pet theory that there is air in the space of Star Wars. Like, there has to be, right? Because there's explosion, there's sound, there's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, it's always just been in my head canon that, yeah, there's air in space. Like, it's just one of those things where you're like, yeah, of course. And hence why we can breathe everywhere and that, like, people can breathe on a meteor. But that's like a bug thing that comes out. So, yeah, it's like, whatever. Don't try and make this hard sci-fi. It's fantasy. It's fantasy in space. Shut up.
Yeah. Damn straight.
But Hammerhead Corvette, fucking the best scene. That was great. And like little Squid Man, he was like, he'd been planning that for so long. You know, he'd wanted to do it for so long. He's just like, I know what to do here, and he was so happy.
I like Down on the Ground, and I have to admit that, you know, one of my friends was in a stormtrooper costume down on the ground, so I kind of was gravitated toward that scene. But
nice.
He was.
Nice. How did he hook that up?
What's that?
How did he hook that up?
Have you ever played The Force Unleashed?
I have.
He is Vader's secret apprentice. That's Sam Witwer.
Oh wow!
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, he was in there somewhere, and I have yet to talk to him to figure it out. But I saw David Collins on his Twitter feed was talking about where he was in that, you know, that the two troopers that were walking, talking about the T-15 being obsolete or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right before the shit hit the fan. I have a feeling that was the scene that had David Collins, and if it had Collins in it, Whitmer would have been in it too. So there was a point in time there where they were talking about that T-15, and I saw David Collins on his Twitter talking about how, at least I think he was copying to being one of those stormtroopers, and he's real tight with Sam. So if Sam is in a stormtrooper armor on that scene, then that's got to be where it is. If that's Collins, so yeah, so that's awesome. That's a personal Easter egg for me, trying to figure out where Sam is in all these movies.
That's cool.
Now,
I really like those two characters, even though they were in such a brief moment. It was just like, as you would if you were chatting with your coworker about, like, yeah, you hear the new those droids are going to get obsolete. Crazy. Then just dead. That was good. And yeah, I liked how they kind of introduced these robots, and then we're like, no, we're just going to have a little nod that this is why they're not in the other films. And I like that moment. That was really sweet. But yeah, the space v air v ground, I really like the space fight the most. I think the air fight was a bit weak, although you did have a monkey gunner, and that was all right.
I forgot about the monkey gunner.
He's having a good time. He loved it.
He was, man.
Yeah. And then the ground force, there, like, notes of Vietnam. I felt, and it was kind of good, but at the same time, a little bit repetitive towards the end.
Yeah. I had a problem with the fact that she climbed to the top in the time it took him to walk to the elevator.
Yeah. I also had a problem at the very end when, after the explosion, and then they've gone down, they're on the beach. Like, how'd they get there so quick?
How did they get there so fast? Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, I have to tell you, I have to admit that I was emotional when they all died.
Well, so what about the part where I am with the Force and the Force is with me, and Donnie Yen walks out there and doesn't get shot and hits that? I felt like that was a key emotional moment. Did you guys think that was...
Oh, nah, dude, I'm with you 100%. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then,
yeah.
And then as I'm thinking, oh my God, this is so cool, I hear Obi-Wan, only Imperial Stormtroopers are so precise. And I'm like, damn it, that just ruined it for me.
I'm just gonna picture something here, just a little minor tweak, because another show we do is called Movie Maintenance, where we take films, we're like, hey, what if they're a little bit better? So, all right, so that scene where he's like, the Force is with me and I'm with the Force, whatever. He's walking through and he's getting there. He's actually doing really well. He's dodging bullets. He's like using his hearing. He's like, holy shit, he's daredeviling this really well. He's sort of moving and weaving between the lasers, and everyone's like, what the fuck? Can't hit him. And he gets to the console, and then he gets shot. Before he actually presses the button, he just gets shot. And he's like, shit. Turns around to his mate, and then he's like, no. The Force is with you. And that's when his mate's got to be like, oh shit, now I have to run and hit the button, and he's just fucking running and tanking all the bullets as he goes, kind of very like Platoon-esque, and that's when like he dies smacking the button. Like, I thought that would have been like, oh, that would have got me right in the heart. But
it would have been better if he didn't make the button, and then they just kept piling up over and over and over on top of each other until finally the last man hits it.
Yeah, see, so just like you could have had that little bit more emotional heartstrings, but hey. That's just a little quirk. I was like, oh, it could have been a bit better. Because I found them all.
It wasn't one of those moments where all of a sudden Malbus, who like was criticizing him earlier for praying, I'm with the Force and the Force is with me. At least he didn't like all of a sudden, I am with the Force, and like force push the button.
Yeah, that would have been
terrible.
I agree.
Found a lot of the deaths very samey. A lot of people died with explosions. And I don't know if that's just because, hey, we're trying to appeal to everybody, make it a little bit like PG-esque. But it would have been nice having the variety of death in that scene, because they all sort of died similarly.
So everybody did die, though. That is how it is. Everybody dies, right? We will never see this Phantom fodder again. So
no.
There goes the whole idea of Rey being like related to Jyn Orso.
Good. That's good. That would have been real bad.
Good with that. The most popular is that I'm hearing over and over again is that she's Obi-Wan's relative in some way. And Finn is Lando's son.
My theory after reading the books, my theory is she's actually related to Sheev Palpatine. I don't know why.
Now I'm on board.
What's that?
Okay.
Now I'm on board. That sounds good. Like, you've sold me.
My partner on the podcast, Chris, thinks that that she is really Anakin's mother, and because it's the Virgins of the Force thing. And I'm like, I just can't buy this.
Get behind that, yeah.
Yeah, I think if they steer away from midichlorians, the better. Everyone dies, and
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Everyone dies, and I thought that was a good way to end the film. However, I kind of almost wished that they'd retire, like some of them had survived, or one or two, and they retired to Alderaan. Because we've had 4 films, like with the opportunity to make the death of Alderaan kind of meaningful,
like more impactful than what it was.
Yeah.
You know, so all we get is Jimmy Smits dying on Alderaan.
Exactly. There's no personal connection to Alderaan except for Jimmy Smits. And while yes, that hurts me deeply, that's because I love Jimmy Smits, not because I care about Bail Organa. So you've had 4 opportunities to kind of make Alderaan something emotionally connecting to the audience, not just to Princess Leia, but to the audience. And we just didn't get a single mention of it. I don't know.
That would have been great, right? The one ship that gets out, Bail Organa's ship, and we're going to take you to Alderaan and you'll be healed, and then bam.
Yeah, I don't know. You could just pick any of them. Let's just say Bodhi, because I like that character. I think the actor was really good. Like, if he was the only one to escape, and that's like a classic heist move where he's just like in the plane waiting to go, and everyone's like dying. He's like, "Fuck it, I gotta get off," and he goes, and then it's like, "You're an Imperial, defector, so we're gonna hide you on Alderaan." That would have made me cry, because I'd have been like, "Oh no, he was so beautiful. He was too young to die." But we didn't get that, and I thought that was a messed up.
See?
Yeah, I had my one requirement when I heard about this, year ago, 2 years, whatever, when it was released, and we found out what the actual plot was. My one requirement for me to be satisfied as a movie was that they all had to die. They all have to die, because I didn't want that Disney. Well, we got to keep the female heroine alive just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, it was good, and I kind of hate sequelitis, and I really hate the fact that no one knows how to almost finish a story anymore when it comes to franchise and films. So it was nice them just. That was good.
Yeah,
that was good.
Well, we got to the best scene in the movie. I think we all agree. The single scene that probably is going to get the most fanfare and most downloads is Vader going apeshit in the cargo bay of the ship.
Oh yeah.
What did we think about that ending scene?
So, this is what I told a friend of mine earlier, dude. You know it's a good scene when you know what happens and you're still on the edge of your seat.
Yes.
Yeah, 1,000 times over, I guess. So I had heard a rumor that this was part of the reshoots as well. Is that Vader was too violent in what he was doing in this hallway and how he was dispatching rebels. And I had heard that was a part where they said, you got to bring it down a notch. You got to bring it down. And this was their compromise. But I was happy. Like, finally, we get to see a little bit of Vader on the big screen, not in a book, not Legends stuff as it's known now. We get to finally see it play out where he's just like, fuck you, you're dead. I'm gonna crush you. I'm gonna stab you. I'm gonna deflect you. And you just watch him just walk through people, cutting through a guy into the door, and then just keeps going. And what I thought was going to happen when they detached, I thought he was going to try and use the Force to pull this ship back in a little bit, and then it was going to break free. Like, I was thinking that was going to be a part where he was going to try and Force pull the ship back in. So that didn't happen, but I was still very happy with the Vader kill shot.
Yeah, I thought that was fantastic. That was one of the highlights of the film. That and the hammerhead. That was just like amazing. And it was just like, yeah, you're right. We finally get to see Vader unleashed on the big screen, which is something we haven't really had. And it kind of showed him being a villain and show him being like, and so that's why it's like this scene doesn't quite add up to the quip scene before. This was really cool. And unfortunately for me, it was then ruined by Leia, like, which is, I think, one of the biggest cinema sins that this movie has. Like, I don't know how much you guys know about like screenwriting and script writing, all that kind of stuff, but your closing image of any film is meant to be really important. And like the closing image is meant to, like, not meant to, but it's a good rule of thumb is that it reflects the opening image kind of thing. And a really good example of this is the Thor: The Dark World, where it's opening image is Loki in chains, the end image is actually Loki on the throne, and it's a really good sort of stark contrast to see that what's happened in this film has led to change. And it's a really good idea to be like, hey, this is the last shot that your audience has, and that's going to be the one that they leave the cinema with, so you got to make it a good one. So why the fuck did they do that? It took me even further out of the film than seeing Tarkin parade his like gross mannequin arms around the Death Star. It was so bad that like it's comparable to like some of the bad CGI choices in episodes 1 to 3. And
really,
to end with that,
I disagree, man. I saw it and I thought it looked great. I thought pulling out a 25-year-old Carrie Fisher was an amazing, and then to say at the end was, what does this leave us with? A New Hope, right? Which is basically what she's saying, which is the intro to the next movie in like 19 minutes after this movie ends. So, I thought it looked really good. I thought it was impressive. I did not expect sexy Carrie Fisher to ever appear again.
I thought we were going to get the buns. I thought we were going to get a back shot of her head with the buns, and somebody was going to voice it or something. But I didn't expect that.
Go ahead.
No, I did not expect that at all, and I'm actually I'm with you. I really thought that Joel. No, not Joel. I'm sorry.
Adam.
What's that?
Team hate it. Team hate it.
No, I'm not on Team Hate It. I'm sorry. I thought it was pretty good.
So I was on Team Hate It.
Yeah.
I
don't
was,
know.
man. I just kind of like, are you shitting me? Because I didn't think it looked as good as Tarkin did. And what I actually thought was going to be the end was her recording the message with R2. I thought that was going to be the end. So then you would see, oh, that's how she was recording it. You know, something, because she would have to get captured. So I was expecting something to happen other than just, oh, it's leaving us with a new hope. And just kind of like you said, man, it was just, that was the end shot, because I had a problem with that.
Yeah, like same. And also, like, I get that ending on the line in New Hope, but the fact of the matter is here, they've been hammering the word hope all throughout. I want to say the third act and a little bit in the second act, but they used hope like at least 43 times.
It was like Obama running for president. Jeez.
It just, they really hammered hope into your skull. And I don't know. To me, having Vader having just torn through a bunch of people and then the ship like chuffing off and then just Vader standing there and then you cut to credits, that's all you needed. You didn't need them, the rest of the Leia scene. I don't know. It just, maybe, I don't know, maybe my eyes were better than some other people. Maybe I was just at that moment in time too fucking tired that it just was like, my brain was just like on alert to be like, that's wrong. That's real wrong. I don't know. But it just didn't sit well with me. And it made me uncomfortable on a primal level, like in my lizard brain, where it was like, something's not right. This is poison. It just, I had a visceral reaction to both Tarkin and Leia. And I felt Tarkin was done a lot better than Leia. And I hated Tarkin.
So maybe this had an impact. Did you guys watch it in 2D or 3D?
3D.
So I did 3D as well. And I didn't like it. I think she stood out more cartoony. Interesting.
Really? I was 2D.
We had some opinions about this, and so did some other people. So I want to get into final opinions, but before I do that, I want to play for you two people's opinions.
I will say it like this. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, is like the female orgasm. It's a little slow to start, takes a bit to get going. Once it does, it's a solid climb to a really powerful climax. It has some problems with character and pacing in the first act for sure, but in the end, it all comes together. And I mean, really comes together. When you're out of that movie, you're like, I want to pop in A New Hope right now and watch that.
What I'm saying is, make a long story short, this one takes place back then, but it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't even have a number, and there's no crawl, so I'm gonna break it down for you exactly why I hate it. This is just little stuff that bothered me, okay? So it's supposed to be like this old Star Wars movie, but it's not even like that, because everything looks new and stuff, and it doesn't even matter, because where do I place Rogue One compared to all the other Star Wars movies? It's the worst one. I grew up watching Star Wars and stuff, and I don't even just count the old ones and the new prequel ones. I count the Ewok. There's 2 or 3 Ewok movies, and those count. And there's the animated ones, and there's the holiday special, and all that good stuff. It's worse than all of those. This movie's worse. This is the worst Star Wars movie. It's just British people blowing up stuff and talking for 2.5 hours. Okay? There's no Star Wars music. There's no Star Wars crawl. There's no Star Wars anything.
I don't agree with the guy who hated it, but I kind of more inclined to the guy who loved it, but also I didn't really like this film. So I'm torn, because the guy who hated it, his argument seemed very
the fact that it didn't have a number or a crawl, then
that's a stupid that's a stupid
he's out of touch. That guy doesn't get it.
So
any reviewer that brings out the female orgasm is number 1 in my book.
If you were to rate this Star Wars movie as a Star Wars character, would it be Darth Vader, or would it be Jar Jar Binks? Or somewhere in between?
Wow.
Hayden Christensen's Anakin.
Oh, that's not good.
That's like barely above Jar Jar.
Maybe to you, but there are some moments where Hayden Christensen, you can see, especially in Revenge of the Sith, where like, he can act. He's all right. He can act. But what he's got around it, I think, kind of brings him down. So I think if you kind of squint and look at it sideways, and you're like, oh, that's really cool. But then when you sort of look into it,
So for me, and I've drawn some hate already with my friends. For me, I've pegged it as and Vader. If Vader's supposed to be your top notch character, for me, my top notch character is Yoda. So that's where it is for me. I've already put it on top of Empire Strikes Back, and my friends all hate me already. But I need to see it again on Sunday just to make sure, because it might come down a little bit lower. But right now, it is my favorite film of the franchise, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
So I'm about a number 3. It's the number 3 Star Wars film for me. So if I had to pick a character, this might be my Dooku. I'm a more of a Sith kind of a guy, so this might be more of my Dooku. Just because I had a lot, I liked it, and the CGI aside, I felt good about the fact that it was Tarkin. Had they CGI'd anybody else, I would have had a problem with it, but the fact that's the reason they did it, I appreciated it and was able to forgive it. But it just had a great feel. The one thing that drove me nuts is I was expecting to see Jin's necklace be made into a lightsaber at some point. I'm sorry. I just expected her to be given that something like.
Yeah.
It was a big
key
deal
for something. But no, I loved how she used it like as a Christian would use a cross, as if like it was a kind of a thing. It was good. I liked that little nuance of that character. I really liked how she just changed that into a something of a memory of her parents. Yeah, that was sweet. I thought that was sweet.
Well, I am more of a Jedi guy. I'd say this is Obi-Wan Kenobi type movie. Not the best, not the worst. I don't think you can ever get better than Empire ever in cinema. It's just the ending had never been seen before, and I really enjoyed The Force Awakens. So it's there in 3 or 4 for me, but that's still pretty high considering there's 182 Star Wars films out there. So
yes.
I am good with I'm good with where it's at. I liked it more than I disliked it.
For sure. Fair enough. For me, it was like getting a so you get a clean piece of paper, right? So just an A4 piece of paper, and there it is, 100% intact. It's great. And then just get a pin and just start jabbing holes in it, and just keep jabbing holes all around until hey, actually some parts are falling away. This part is that's actually over there. That part's still kind of intact, and over there's a couple of pinholes. That to me is this film. There's a lot of minor problems that I have with it that end up really taking away from the film. That's sort of my take on this film. Is just that on a whole, there's some real cool stuff, but there's just some minor things here that they're just kind of poking, and I feel it kind of lets it down somewhat. So yeah, better than the prequels, but I don't think it's as good as Force Awakens. And I have some issue with Force Awakens. So,
well,
is it better than?
We will do that.
Is it better than Episode 6 for you?
Oh, it's better than the second half of Episode 6. Yeah.
All right. Do we have anything else to add? Because we are running low on time and we're about to sign off. Is there anything that we are missing with the Star Wars? Any trivia that we missed? Anything special that we know about before we go?
Tom Brady is Darth Vader.
Go back and watch for General Syndulla and look for the ghost.
I did see the ghost, but I missed the General Syndulla thing.
Yep, they pager overhead. It's like Kmart or Walmart.
Nice.
Ezra got lost.
Before we go, you guys want to let everybody know where they can find you, where they can love you, where they can get a hold of you. We'll start with you, Brian.
You can find myself via Twitter, IKEFFB, 515 Fantasy on Facebook and Twitter, or on iTunes, 515 Fantasy Football, and Stitcher.
All right, Joel?
Yep, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at GoddammItZammit. Or you can find what we do with Sanspants Radio. So on Twitter, it's at Sanspants Radio, or the website sanspantsradio.com. And then we do a bunch of shows. The Plumbing the Death Star one, which is what I'm sort of mostly on, but we also do like a D&D one. We do a health and fitness one. We do another movie one. So we do a myriad of different shows.
David.
And I guess that leaves me. So that's you can find me at GM Dave on Twitter, Facebook. We've got a D20 Radio and Order 66 podcast pages. You can find us at d20radio.com for all your nerdly pursuits.
Nice. And, of course, you're listening to Sleeper Wire. We'll be here forever. And even if we're not, maybe they'll just reanimate us, CGI us, and put us up there later. But thank you, everybody, for listening to this Star Wars review. This was a blast. Thank you, all three of you. And as you all know, we do this for Rob. That's the cause. So you can see more about that on SleeperWire.com or the Sleeper Wire Show on Twitter. So this is Adam and David and Joel and Brian saying so long, everybody. Thanks.
See ya.
Eric.
It's good, guys. It's good.